Living in DC, I've seen a lot more Caps games than I would like.
I'm so
Because
sorry.
that's the local TV around here, and it ends up, oh look, Caps games on. Guess there's nothing else.
The Donut Bag is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smart way to buy and resell tickets. It takes the confusion out of buying tickets. They put a 0 to 10 score on each ticket to let you know if you're getting a good or bad deal. Use promo code DONUTBAG to get $20 off your first purchase. Go to SeatGeek.com or get the SeatGeek app. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pod Hum Network. In this episode, I welcome back Nick Vucic from Pens Labrynth. We talk about everything going on with the Penguins. They've lost 3 in a row. Is it time to panic? How far is this team going to go in the playoffs? The Donut Bag starts right now. The Penguins have lost 3 in a row. Are they in trouble? With me to talk about it is Nick Vucic from Pens Labrynth. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. So, is it time to panic, or was with these past couple games just a couple fluky losses?
I don't think it's time to panic, but I think it's time to set expectations. About a month ago, at the beginning of March, I'd written a post that was outlining the fact that I didn't think the Penguins had it in it this year. I didn't think that this was going to be their year. They just hadn't been really playing well up to then, and even when they did play well, they didn't look like they were playing really well. And then they're on this big run, right? Because of course, they locked themselves into a playoff spot more or less, and they finally start playing some decent 60-minute hockey. What we've seen over the past 3 games is that's no longer the case again. It's like they only had it in them for a short little spurt, and now it's back to kind of how they were. And I think, the Blues game aside, the last 2 games are probably the most frustrating way to lose games in any sport. You hold it off the entire time, and then, in the last few minutes of the game, you give up goals you haven't come close to giving up the rest of the game. And it's just like, there's only so much you can do in those spots, because the Hurricanes are a hungry team. They were gunning for it. The Flyers have that extra level of intensity that comes with every game and playing spoilers, and they're still fighting for a spot 2. So there's been a little bit of extra intrigue in both of those games, where the other teams are gunning for it probably a little bit more than the Penguins. But those are just 2 inexcusable games to have lost, especially in the way they did. The Penguins controlled play in both of those games for 58 minutes. And then, everything just goes downhill. And I gotta say, even though Jack Johnson's been playing significantly better over these past 10 games, which is not something I think I'd ever say. And Goodbranson's been moderately okay. I mean, he hasn't been noticeable, which is fine. But by my standards, that's significantly better than expected. And, getting with hang back, you would expect things to start to settle, but it feels like there's still this dynamic on defense where every night it's something else. We might get Mata back soon. And then what do we do with the pairings? Who's sick? Is it Pettersson who sits? Does Branson sit? Does Johnson? Never mind. That's not going to happen. But, you have this thing where they only have a few games left, or 8 games left at this point, right?
Yeah.
8, I think, yeah. And they don't even have their defensive pairing set because of the injuries they've had. And when Mata gets back, he's going to draw into the lineup and then you're only going to have, 5 or 6 games to work with the defense that's been set, including 3 people who have been out to injury for a while. And Letang looked, fine yesterday. He had some rust, but, you always welcome somebody back like Letang back to the lineup. And the same goes for Dumoulin. Dumoulin looked pretty solid since he's been back. And, you've seen Schultz since he's been on a pairing with Johnson was having a bit of a rough time. But who knows what's going to happen with Mata? Because every time he's come back from an injury, he's played differently. So the question is, what is this team? And we still don't know. We just haven't seen it. And then you add the whole fact that Malkin might be out another week or two. We don't even know what this team's going to look like for the rest of the week, let alone 3 weeks from now at the beginning of the playoffs. So I don't think panic's the right word. I think setting expectations is the key. I think, you look at who's a real powerhouse in the East. Of course, Tampa Bay. It's Tampa Bay right now. And, they've had trouble getting over that hill in the playoffs. In the salary cap era. And they are just a scary, scary team right now. And they are running through teams at a pace we haven't seen in this league for a long time. They're basically what that 2015, 2016 Penguins team was from March on for the entire season. And that's just, it's downright impressive. And if they carry that into the playoffs, and every indication seems they will, they are the team to beat. And I don't see in any way, shape, or form if somehow the Penguins end up matched up against New York or Carolina, who they're going to struggle with because those are both quality teams, getting to the Caps, beating the Caps, and then being able to beat the Lightning. I have a hard time seeing that play out. And that's kind of what I was getting at, last month was I'm glad they didn't go all out at the deadline. I don't think it would matter. I think they could have gone and got, Wayne Simmons or, outside of somebody like Mark Stone. I think it would have been really hard for them to have improved the team in a way that would put them on the levels with San Jose and Calgary and Tampa Bay and Boston and Toronto. I think right now the Penguins are a second-tier team. Still very good. And by all means, they could make a run. But I just don't see it happening. I think it's less likely to happen. I'd be surprised if they beat the Caps, let alone beat whoever they matched up with in the first round if it's not the Caps.
Yeah, but when they are on their game, they look great. But getting to that game has been few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing, and the probably most frustrating thing about being a Penguin fan right now is you saw them play a great 58 minutes against Philadelphia. They did so many things right. They got shots, they got continued shots on net. They got traffic in front of the net. They played a nice shutdown defense, and then it was just that last little bit they couldn't keep it up. And I mean, the thing that worries me is that's the playoffs right there. So much of the playoffs, and we've seen this in every series the Caps and Pens have played, so much of it turns on seconds and minutes in the series. There's a play here or a check here or a penalty here, and that's the difference. That ends up being the difference in the series. And right now, the Pens are losing those seconds and minutes. And I'm not sure they know a way out. And, you can hope that Crosby could will them through, at least some of those. But until they start consistently coming out on top of those opportunities, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle to win games. They're going to struggle to win 4 games out of 7. I mean, I'm looking at, I'm hoping, obviously, for a first-round matchup with either the Hurricanes or the Islanders, because I think those two teams match up against the Penguins have a more favorable matchup with those two teams, but we saw last night what Carolina is capable of. They're not a bad team. They may not have the best offense, but they can get the job done. And the Penguins tend to let other teams get the job done against them. And I don't see a way out of that situation that's going to be a positive development for the team, either the rest of the year or starting playoffs. And I mean, frankly, what it comes down to is it's kind of been a strange year for the Penguins. They've had a lot of injuries. They're coming off their biggest rival, winning the Stanley Cup in a tough series against them. They've had a player they expected to be a key cog in it fall out of the lineup, more or less, until he was traded. They saw one of their best wingers, who's still producing, but completely go cold at even strength. I love Phil Kessel. I don't want to see Phil Kessel traded if at all possible, but right now something's not right and something's not working. I think the stat I saw was 24 straight games without an even strength goal for Phil Kessel. And I think it's 22-23 without an even strength goal for Patrick Hornqvist. Now, Gensel has been picking up the slack for both of them, which is great because, I think Jake Gensel is doing all that he can and more. But they have to be the ones scoring. If they're not scoring, the Penguins are in trouble. And that's what we're saying. There's just no magic trick. There's no flip to switch. I mean, I'm hoping that, playoff performer Patrick Hornqvist shows up out of nowhere. And he's able to flip the switch and that's wishful thinking, but Penguins are in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't argue that. Right now, they seem like a one-line team that relies on either Crosby's line or the power play to score. And that's not a good recipe for playoff success.
Well, the interesting thing was that when I wrote the piece about being pretenders and not contenders, one of the things I looked at was the splits for home and away special teams. And one of the most striking things I saw is that the Penguins are a terrible team on home ice when it comes to special teams. I forget where they were at the time, but they were in the low 20s for penalty kill at home, and they were in the bottom of the league, like 29, 30, 31 for power play at home. But their road power play was like 4th, and their road penalty kill was like 6th. And it was one of the things like I don't understand why that's the case, and that goes against almost all logic. Pittsburgh's not a distracting city in the same way that say Vegas is or New York City is, right? Or Toronto. They don't have the pressure on them, especially when most of the year has been spent. The Pittsburgh media has been spent on other non-hockey topics. So it's a little surprising to see what this team has become, and even when Malkin's playing, it's just it isn't firing on all cylinders. I mean, I've liked the way McCann and Bukestad have played since they've arrived. I think they've done what has been asked of them. There's a point where the third line was McCann, Bukestad, and Hornqvist. And that's right. Yeah, it was McCann, Hornqvist, and Bukestad. The PB and J line, as I kept annoyingly calling them. For Patrick, Bukestad, and Jared. That's what